We just don't have to do all the things for all the people all the time. Full stop. We just don't. My job is to love God and love others. But I love others as I love myself. We kind of leave off that part of the scripture.
Yeah, we do.
To love others as you love yourself. And if you are not loving yourself and not like being selfish to the detriment of everyone else, that's different. If your goal is to take care of yourself because you deserve it and you are worth it and you matter and it's all about you, that's a whole other conversation we're having.
Right.
But if your goal is to take care of yourself so that you can glorify God with what he's given you and serve other people with what he's given you, that is the most selfless thing you can be doing.
Welcome to the Sacred Hustle podcast, where we embrace the beauty of balancing purpose, peace, and pursuit in a faith-filled life. This is the place where quiet moments of reflection meet bold steps of obedience, and where stories of resilience, grace, and unwavering hope come alive. Whether you're here to reignite your purpose, find encouragement, or simply pause in the midst of life's hustle, you're in the right place. Let's lean into the sacred together, because every step of your journey matters. Hello, friends, and welcome to this episode of the Sacred Hustle podcast. I'm so glad you're listening today. I'm so glad you're here. If you found me accidentally, well, I'm just welcoming you and so thankful that you found me. And if you're here again on purpose, I just want to thank you for that as well. Today, I'm really excited to bring a special lady onto the show that I felt her insight and her wisdom and her own sacred hustle journey would inspire all of you who are listening today. Her name is also Rachel, and I'm going to read a little bit about Rachel Baker because I feel like her story is, even though I'm going to share it in just a nutshell, I know it's going to be so good and you're going to listen to it and be like, oh my gosh, I need to finish this episode today. Rachel Baker is a speaker, coach, and author who is obsessed with helping women reclaim their time and sanity. As a chronic pain and illness warrior, special needs mom, and woman with ADHD, Rachel deeply understands the battle of doing all the things for everyone else while trying to keep her head above water. Now she shares sanity-saving strategies, resources, and scriptures with women through her podcast, How's All That Working For Ya? Which, by the way, is amazing. Just the podcast title alone is just so awesome. But she encourages people to create breathing room in this one and only life. Her encouragement and sass cut through the fluff and speak directly to the hearts of overwhelmed women with a mix of humor, vulnerability, and scriptural truths. So when I say this friend of mine is absolutely adorable, you're going to see why in just a few moments. So without further ado, let's dive right on into a conversation with Rachel today on the show. Well, friends, I told you that I had a treat for you today. Here she is, Rachel Baker. We happen to have the same first name. Soul sisters. But Rachel, I'm so excited to have you on the show. This was something that I just felt a tug in my heart ever since I've gotten to know you, and I absolutely adore you. We became really fast friends, and your story is incredible, and I love all of the things that is in a part of your mission to encourage other people with, just trying to do life and get through life and do all the things. Let's start with your story. Who is Rachel Earp? Or Rachel Earp? This is
who is Rachel Earp?
I'm confusing you with me. We're not going to talk about Rachel Earp today. We're going to talk about Rachel Baker. So, Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself and what the Sacred Hustle has brought you to today.
Ooh, that's a big, broad question. How much time do you have?
All day, girl.
All day. No, I am a wife, a mom, a sister, a friend. My background is early childhood special education. So I worked in that field for several years and years, doing lots of different things. And I've done early intervention, developmental therapy. I've done online ESL. I did that for several years. I taught my own curriculum online for several years. I've taught third grade. I did that for 5 years. So the teacher line of my genes is very strong. And that has just morphed as God willed it over time. I also have autoimmune disease, chronic illness. I've had umpteen surgeries, degenerative discs, and I've had giant cell bone tumor in my shoulder. There's just been a lot of health stuff. And so the biggest pivot, I guess, in that was 2016, 17, somewhere in there. 16, I believe, where I could not teach anymore, just physically. By the end of the school year, I was teaching from a wheelchair, which was just a nightmare. Wow. So I had to go home, but still needed to pay bills, which is when the online teaching came in. And every step of the journey, I would say, I can't believe this is happening. How is this my life? What am I going to do? And then obviously having zero control, that's the moment when God steps in and says, here's the next step. Here's the next little stepping stone. Just go to the next one. You don't have to know the whole journey. And then you look back and go, look how that all played out perfectly. And I learned the skills I needed for just the next step. And so the place where I'm at now as a speaker and a writer and a podcaster and in women's ministry is not at all where I started teaching babies how to walk and talk. But everything that got me there along the way and all the hard pieces that I had to go through gave me what I needed to get to this point right now. And I love where I'm at right now. So I think that's the biggest piece. Like, who is Rachel? What's her story? I'd say that's the biggest piece for me, is just slowly learning to open up my hands, let go of that control that I feel like I need to have all the time, and taking a breath. I'm really big on helping women create some breathing room in their lives when they feel like they're drowning. And so learning to open my hands, create some breathing room in my life, not hustle till I'm dead, right? And resting more in the sacred than the hustle, because me hustling is not going to get things done, but me resting and trusting, having faith in the sacred is what has gotten me all the good things that I've had in life. So there are a million other components to all of that and to me, but I'd say that's the core piece.
I love that part of your mission is so much in helping. And I kind of shared this earlier when I was sharing your bio and a little bit about how you love to help women who feel like they're drowning just keep their head above water. And you mentioned the breathing room and creating more breathing room. And I love that you brought that up, because I feel like that component in itself feels like so much work for me. You know, it feels like effort that I have to put into it, and it really shouldn't be, but I know I'm not the only person who feels that way, and obviously you've understood that very well. So I'd love to talk a little bit about, what does it look like for you to create that breathing room when you're doing all of the things, and especially when you're not well and you're not feeling well, then that feels like even more effort. So how does that look for you?
The biggest thing for me personally, and I know we've talked a little bit, you and I, about Enneagram, and not everybody loves it, and some people are obsessed with it. I think it's a great tool to help us understand ourselves and understand other people and just communicate better. But I am an Enneagram 2 all day long, and a 2 is a helper. I want to help everybody all the time, to my detriment. When you go to the unhealthy side of that component, I want to help you at the detriment of myself. Like, I'm going to run myself into the ground to make sure everybody else is taken care of. And when I'm really unhealthy, maybe you didn't even ask for my help, and I'm just doing it anyway because I think I should help you. Or maybe you'll think I'm more valuable if I help you. Maybe this is what is needed for you to keep me around as a friend, or, whatever. None of that is accurate, scriptural, any of it. And so for a lot of women that I work with, there is that component of, it is my responsibility to do all the things for all the people. And so the biggest first step is a shift in mindset. It's not even changing your to-do list or getting more productive or efficient or prioritizing. There are time management things we can talk about. I do a lot of training on that, how to manage your time better, how to be more efficient, how to decide what's important and what's urgent and what's not. But none of that matters if you haven't worked through the piece of not everything is mine. That's the biggest change I've had to make, is to have something handed, and maybe somebody says, here's an opportunity we have and we need people to help. Rachel, either one of us, Rachel, can you do it? Mm-hmm. And for me to look at that and say, God, is this mine? Wow. Is this mine to do? Does it fall within my skills and strengths and passions that you've placed within me? Because you created me in my mother's womb. I am uniquely designed to do what you made me to do here. Or is there someone else with that set of strengths and skills and passions? And would I be taking an opportunity from someone else that could do it or is more equipped to do it?
Wow.
All of those are pieces of it. Or even, what else is on my plate? Is there even space for it? Or am I at a buffet piling on the top and I'm going to throw up later? Because, I do it at the buffet. I do it in real life. Just keep piling on the Chinese food because it all looks good and I can handle it, but I'm going to be sick as a dog later.
Yep.
And so if that analogy helps you, then
that's
yay.
Great.
But that's what we do. Is that not what we do? We do it with food. We do it with service opportunities. We do it with taking care of our family, our kids, our friends. What else do you need me to do? Because it's what I do. But the piece that we forget about, and that I had to learn the hard way, is you cannot keep others warm by setting yourself on fire. That's not helpful. When you are burned to a crisp, nobody else benefits. Mm-hmm. And so really, I'm just obsessed with helping other women figure that out easier and faster than I did.
I love that. It's so needed. And like you mentioned, my thing is, I've always said is I have a tendency to bite off more than I can chew, and kind of tying into the buffet thing. If you ever put so much food in your mouth, and then you try to chew and it's coming out.
Nowhere to go.
It's got nowhere to go. And you really think about that saying, it's not a good place to be. And like you said, it feels like, I can handle it. And I think I really love that you, kind of going back to what you said a few minutes ago, you said, Lord, is this mine? Mm-hmm. And that is profound, Rachel, because if we really were more thoughtful about all of the different things that come, whether it's an opportunity that knocks on our door, or whether it's a task or a thing that we want that looks just amazing that we should pursue. And that could be a project, a career change, or not, a volunteering opportunity. There's so many things that bombard us on a daily basis. And it doesn't mean they're all not amazing, that they're not all valid. And sometimes it's even just not the right time. Mm-hmm. And I think understanding God's timing in our lives would really help us to create more of that space for that rest that you mentioned, is just being more intentional about the things that we want to just gravitate towards, and asking God and inviting God into all of the daily, all of the little things. God does care about it. And he does not want his children to run around like stressed out little, creatures.
Yes. Chickens with their heads cut off. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And a piece of that, sometimes I think we say there are a lot of churchy words, a lot of phrases that eventually, they sound kind of cliche. So a lot of times I think when we talk about you need to wait for God's timing, or just pray more, or none of that is wrong or bad. But I think the majority of what we're trying to say in that is there is wisdom available to you. And sitting for a hot second to actually be still and know in your heart that he is God, and he's got you. It matters. We can say just be still and know and pray and listen for God's timing. A big piece of waiting for God's timing, I've never in my life been Lord, is this your timing? And he's like, yes, Rachel, it is. This is the time. Step forward, my child. I don't get that. But I can pause and reflect on what season am I in right now? Is this a season where my priority needs to be my children and making sure they're getting what they need? Are they doing well, or are we a hot mess right now? You know, like I've got 2 teenagers in my house. Fix it. Lord Jesus, it's a whole vibe. And we're just doing our daily best over here.
Right.
And that needs a little more of me than me volunteering for every opportunity that shows up at church. Would I love to do that? 100%. But this is not the season for that. There are things we can do together. There are 1 or 2 things here and there that I can do. Maybe they have a school thing and I go do this thing. But I am intentional about that. I am mindful about that. You know, very, very demure, very mindful. You know, it's not quite that, but
look at you, girl.
Just trying it. Listen, there's too many reels, too much social media in my eyeballs. But the point is to seek wisdom, to know that if I am flying by the seat of my pants and just saying yes to everything that comes my way, it's not going to go well. I'm not God. I don't have that wisdom.
Yeah.
It gets a little better as I get older and I, trip over my own 2 feet as I go. I learn. That wasn't it. But to ask his guidance and to be aware of the season of life that I'm in and to allow grace for that. You know, I'm having surgeries tomorrow as we're recording this. I'm going to have 3 surgeries all on the same day. This is not the season for me to sign up for a bunch of stuff or to make really big plans for the next month or 2. And there are things I really want to do. Having goals is not bad. Right. Wanting to achieve, wanting to get to a certain place, none of those are bad things. But if I made all these big goals for the next year without being mindful of the phase of life I'm in right now and what's happening, it's all going to fall apart. And I'm going to feel like, oh, well, I failed because I couldn't do these things. Like, well, girl, you just had 3 surgeries. Right. What were you thinking was going to happen? That's cute. Yeah. Sit down.
It's so true.
But we do that. We do that.
Yeah, we do. And the interesting thing is there's a scripture that says, Jesus was actually telling us that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And I don't know. I mean, I know you understand this, like we were talking. Oftentimes on our journey, we get this like despair, and it's like, my life is just an overwhelm. Constantly, I'm this rat running the race, and I don't know, like I'm spinning my wheels, and I'm exhausted, and I'm literally up before dawn, and then I like fall into bed at night, and I'm just so tired. I'm so busy. I will pencil you in for 6 months from now because my calendar is so full. All of the things, thinking that is the expectation of a life well lived. And in fact, I think there's so much more emphasis that we should put on the resting part than we really do. And there's a lot of examples of this in the Bible. In fact, Jesus himself, there's actually, it's a very short scripture, but when it was getting close to the time where he knew he was going to be crucified, he would go off into the garden, and it says that he would meditate. And he would go off alone. And that word too really struck me as I was reading that recently, was that he went alone for time with God. And if you really think about that, how much do we actually, even just to create time for God in our busy schedule, doing all of the things where we can take time to, maybe it's to go for a walk or go into our closet, or in my instance, I like to sit in my rocking chair.
I love
and
it.
just to think about him. It doesn't mean we have to go into this big, deep, meditation and like this,
right? Or an hour-long Bible study. Like, it doesn't have to be intense.
It doesn't have to be a big grand production.
No,
it's just the thoughtful and mindful part of it. And like you said, the just being still. Like, let's be still some more.
Yes. Well, and so there are a couple things in what you just said. First of all, it is all over scripture, all over the times where we are told to rest. Jesus gives the example of rest, being alone, being in prayer. Even if you just go through, I love the book of Mark for this reason. There are multiple times that you can find. And it's funny because Like you said, it's just like there's a little verse here and there, but we skip over them because they're not the exciting stories. Like you read a parable and then there's this little verse about, and like Jesus went off by himself for a little bit and then came back. And then there's this other big like miracle that he did. And there are just so many verses of where he does big things. He serves the people. He's talking about God. He's on mission, right? We all want to be on mission. And then he steps away for a little bit and he refuels. He refills his own cup with solitude and time with God. But we don't get a big, long, chapter about it. We get one little verse and then we jump back into the next miracle. And there's even a couple times where his disciples and his family were like, Jesus, where were you? Where'd you go? All these people need you. They're looking for you. And he's like, I was taking care of business. Like, I'm back now. Let's do the thing. But I was doing what I needed to do.
Yeah.
That I think is huge. That's we want to be like Jesus. Well, that's part of being like Jesus. I think that's a big piece of it. Another thing that you mentioned made me think of the author, John Mark Comer. Love him and his work. And he talks in the book called It's the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And I love that book so much.
Wow.
But he talks about when we make our lists of things that we're going to do in the day, we always have great intentions, right? Like, I'm going to get up. I'm going to go walk for 3 miles. I'm going to sit and read my Bible for an hour. I'm going to have this quiet time. And then the sun actually rises and the day actually starts. And what is the first thing that gets knocked off the list? What's the first thing to go? Well, maybe I don't have time for my walk this morning, or I don't actually have time for like my kids screaming and I need to handle this. And like all of those nice things that were for me, like those would have been nice. Those are the first thing to go. And he points out that those are the things that should be your first go-to when life gets like that, because those are the things we actually need. They set the day right. They get us in line with God. They, we're taking care of ourselves, filling our own cups so that I'm real big on so that we do these things so that we can then pour into other people. And I am the queen of my go-tos are the first thing to go. Usually I'm trying to get better about that, but it's such a helpful way to remember like, oh, well, that can go. No, it can't. I must go to it, And so I try to prioritize.
Yeah.
But I just love the way he puts that. And he's right. He
is. I remember a conversation you and I had around a fire pit, and we had just had some ooey gooey s'mores at a retreat. And we talked about like being in, whether you're, I know you do speaking and you host retreats also and author, like you're doing all of the things, a lot of social things and I do in similar spaces. And I shared with you how drained that I am and how I feel like it sucks all the life out of me and I have to recuperate afterwards. And I kind of got this mindset thinking, well, that means that I shouldn't be doing this because I should feel energized and this should be, but I don't think and it kind of tying in once again to the stories of Jesus and all of the miracles that he performed and the things that he did and the multitudes of people that he spoke into and he healed. And, his life was just such a wonder and a work, just in awe, and you have to be in awe when you really truly think about it all. But he had to rest, and he even, going off and having the solitude and finding that he knew he needed to go to the Father to refill his cup. And I think that helps me a lot because it doesn't mean you have to chuck everything.
Right.
Just because it is feeling, you're tired afterwards, like you said with your surgeries and you're going through a lot, and it's okay to if it's pressing pause on something, or if it's maybe slowing the time down on what you're going to take to accomplish that. I am in that right now. Yeah. I have so much that I am working on, and I think I have to do it all like this, and this. And I'm realizing, you know what? I'm going to just stretch it out a little more. I'm using the word stretch a lot because I do all of these stretch and folds with my sourdough lately.
Yes. You've become a queen, a queen of the sourdough. It's amazing.
Call me the sourdough queen. No, I'm really not. But I've only been doing this for 2 months. That's but awesome. As I'm doing and I'm stretching the dough and, I'm just thinking about the word stretch, and that can be very uncomfortable. But I mean, there's so many good things that come out of being stretched. Like,
yes.
not even just like health wise with our bodies. And I know for me, like in the mornings when I get up and I'm like trying to stretch because my back is so stiff and, you know, it's like, it feels good. And yeah, sometimes it even hurts, but it feels good. And in fact, stretching is one of the most important components of a workout that many of us want to skip. So I am really bad about that. If I want to go for a walk or run or whatever, I don't like to take the time to stretch because it's like, can we just get this over with and can I get to the big thing? And then afterwards you regret it because it's like, now I'm hurting. I should have taken the time to stretch. But that is where you have to slow down. And the stretching seasons in our life usually are the seasons where we are really having to slow down and pay attention and be mindful like of what we're doing and the things that God is trying to lead us into. He stretches us to help us perform even better. If you really want to look at it as going back to what Paul talked about, the race, like we're all on a race. We are all running a race. Some of us are really good at it. And you look at the person next to you and it's like, well, they just run with so much poise and they're so strong and so fast. And I'm just like, just barely getting through this right now. That's not fair.
But the nice thing about this race that we're running is there's no competition in it. You don't have to run like anybody else. That's you don't have to beat anybody else to get anywhere. Most of these goals and deadlines and expectations. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, I've got to get this done. And I have this date that I have to meet this thing. But if you sit long enough, like who set that? Who decided that? Who set that expectation? Yeah. Oh, that was me. Cool. I'm doing this to myself. So a big piece of like, we're running and we're looking and they're doing it better than I am, or they're farther ahead than I am. Like I am not running to beat anybody else. I am not running. First of all, I hate running. I just would like to say that.
I do too, actually.
It's the literal worst.
I was referring back to when I was in college and I used to run. I don't run anymore.
Yeah, no, I didn't run then either. It's terrible. But for those who like to run, maybe you should start walking. Okay. I'm walking at the moment. Yeah. There are so many things. I've got a book that's sitting unfinished and it's just going to have to hang out for a while. I've got another retreat that needs to get planned. And I was really hoping it would be this spring, but I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not. It's going to be in the fall and that's okay. And the people who need it and want to attend, it'll be there for them when it's ready. And they're not going to like torch me because I don't have it ready when they want it. People are like, well, can we have one in February? I'm like, sure can't. I don't know where I'm going to be in February. Like, I love you. I would love to do that. It's not going to happen. And that's okay. We just don't have to do all the things for all the people all the time. Full stop. We just don't. My job is to love God and love others. But I love others as I love myself. We kind of leave off that part of the scripture.
Yeah, we do.
To love others as you love yourself. And if you are not loving yourself and not like being selfish to the detriment of everyone else, that's different. If your goal is to take care of yourself because you deserve it and you are worth it and you matter and it's all about you, that's a whole other conversation we're having. Right. But if your goal is to take care of yourself so that you can glorify God with what he's given you and serve other people with what he's given you, that is the most selfless thing you can be doing.
Hey friends, sliding in here real quick to ask this question. Would you love to learn how to speak and how to listen with more intention? Well, if so, I have created a free guide for you just to help you get a little bit of clarity, and it's called The Sacred Words. If you'd like a copy of this free guide, all you have to do is click the link in the show notes. It's my gift straight to you. And I hope that it will just bring a little bit of clarity around how you can learn to use more words with intention and to listen more with more intention, because those two things can make all the difference in your relationships with others, your relationship with God, and even your relationship with yourself. So click the links in the show notes and I'll be glad to send it your way. That's right.
And so when I hear about like self-care, you've got to filter it through that lens. Yes, you should care for yourself, but what's the heart of it? Why are we doing it? What's the end goal?
Right.
It matters.
It really does. It does. So I would love to know, since we've been talking about all of that, what if there's one word that would be your like sacred word of the day for Rachel Baker, what would that word be that would describe the season that you're in right now? And just share with us a little bit about why you would choose that word. I'm going to put you on the spot,
Let's go. Well, I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm fairly verbose. So narrowing it down to one word.
I can't wait to hear this one.
Is the whole thing. Well, yeah, I could just get wild and crazy with it. I'm going to say for today, my word is enough. And there's so much in it, but I often struggle, as many women do, with fearing that I am not enough or I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
But right now, I have about 1 million things that need to get done before I go into these surgeries tomorrow. Obviously, I cannot manipulate time to give myself more hours in the day. Yeah. And so I'm being intentional and have my lists together. And I have to tell myself whatever happens, however much or little, is enough. It has to be enough. Yeah. And even if I don't finish the list, I am still enough.
That's right.
That's something that I really lean into a lot. Things that I've had to work on a lot and that I work with other women on a lot in my coaching is just giving myself the grace that I would extend to anyone else. I'm a lot more gracious with other people than I am with myself, right? Yes. Like if you were like, listen, my kids are being crazy. I'm not going to be able to meet today. Can we please reschedule? I would be like, of course we can. You do not even have to ask. Go live your life. Take care of your kids. Like, I feel like most people would be that way. Maybe not, but I just feel like we are more gracious. But for me, if I'm looking on my list of things to do, like you were going to do this today and you did not get it done and you were going to make that phone or send that email and I cannot believe that did not, and I'm like all over myself. We should all over ourselves. You should do this and I should do that. And it stinks. We have to stop doing that.
I agree.
So that's something I believe very firmly. So allowing myself to extend that grace to myself. Like, it's okay. You felt like trash today. Your kid has bronchitis. It's like, there are 1 million different factors that come into why whatever thing didn't happen. Yeah. And I'm not a horrible person. Yeah. So I love this conversation of like the sacred piece in the hustle. Yeah. Because I got to tell you, I'm not much of a hustle girl. I used to be like 24/7 hustle, get it done. But if you have that drive, because God did give us a drive to do and create and excel and achieve. Not everybody. Some people are like, I'm good. But for those of us who do have that and want to make things happen, do big things, I think it is so important to know you can have a season of hustle, but it needs to be intentional. There needs to be awareness. And one of the most sacred things I think you can have is creating that breathing room in your schedule. And the biggest piece of that is being able to say no to some things so that you can say yes to the things that need to happen.
Right. And I think too, like, can we just say, I feel like this needs to be said when it comes to the word hustle, because I know for me, when I would think of the word hustle, I had this image in my head of what that looked like. And I did not fit that mold at all. Like, I still don't fit that mold. Yeah. But I felt like there was like this endless striving. And I feel like we all have some form of hustle in our life, even if it's not what that may appear to be for someone else. And it could be simply just trying to get healthy. It could be simply trying to have a stronger relationship with our spouse or with God or our children. It could be creating and using gifts that God has given us to create, because we want to be a good steward of the gifts, because He expects us to do that. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing that I am learning about hustle, and the real heart behind this podcast is it is a sacred thing because it is very unique to all of us.
Mm.
And I think that is, if more people could understand, I need to interpret that for what it means and what God has called me into and what God is leading me into with the hustle, because it's not going to look the same as someone else's. And I know we talked a little bit about comparing, because that is such a trap when we just compare our own hustle to someone else's and we think, well, theirs is more glamorous or theirs is more out seen and productive. And when it comes to all of those things, God created us to be productive. And I think that's the measure that we need to look at in a day. And I guarantee if you ask yourself, was I productive today? Maybe you didn't do 20 things. Maybe you were productive in this one thing, but that's all that matters, is that we are living our lives doing what God has called us to do. And once again, I hope that whoever is listening will just breathe easy, knowing that your hustle is so sacred. It's beautiful, and it's important to operate in what that looks like for you and not worry about what that looks like for someone else, because that is such a trap. And that is where, tying into I love your word, enough, that's when we start to feel like, well, my hustle isn't enough. My work and my productivity and all of the things that I'm trying to be, it's just never enough. And feeling in that, living in that place of not feeling enough is not the abundant life that God has called us as his children into. He says he wants us to live abundantly. And I feel so strong about that, because if you look at the word abundance, you think of plenty, you think of a lot, you think of just everything that you would possibly need or want is right there. That is actually his will for us, is abundance.
Yeah. Well, and he says, my grace is sufficient for you. It's enough. My grace is enough. There's nothing I'm going to do over here. There's nothing Rachel's going to make happen that's going to make it enough. There's nothing I can do that's going to put me over the top or make me even better. His grace is enough. And I just have to lean into that. And as you were talking, and I was thinking, like, for the next month or so, I'm going to hustle to heal. Okay. I'm going to hustle. Do you know what that's going to look like? I'm going to be in my bed. I'm going to be on my couch. I'm going to be reading books and watching TV and sipping my coffee and water. Like, that's my hustle for that. I can't do much else. I'm not going to have use of my right arm for quite some time. Writing, typing, like, forget it. I'm useless. And so I just was thinking, like, that's my next hustle. I'm not working on a book. I'm not speaking. I'm not hosting retreats. I'm not doing all of these amazing things that I feel like I want to be hustling at. I'm a hustle to heal.
Yes, girl.
And somebody else, watch me post this mess all over Instagram, and somebody else is going to look at that lazy girl.
No.
If I mean, like, I'm not worried about it, but I'm saying, if we're comparing, if we're looking at each other and going, does my hustle look like her hustle? Am I doing enough? Like, that's enough for me. It's enough for Jesus Christ. I'm resting and healing so that I can get back to a place of service. But if somebody else is looking over on my Instagram channel, they're not going to see the hustle they might expect. And so just one more, and like, I'm not mad at it. I don't feel bad about it. It's enough.
That's right. I love that. I love you're going to hustle to heal, friends. I love it so much. And you deserve that. You deserve that, because it's a lot to go through. I think it's important to just recognize that too. Look at where you've come from. Look at what you're going through and what you live with on a daily basis, that a lot of people don't know that world. They don't understand that world, and they never will. And like you said, it's like you have to be okay that people aren't going to understand that for some of us, getting out of bed is a hustle.
Right? I'm a hustle to get up. Like, I'm really thinking, before we started today, so I keep hitting this, before we even started, I came on today, I'm like, girl, I bathed this morning. You're welcome. Part of my medications and autoimmune stuff is I literally don't have eyebrows anymore, which is like weird to me. And my kids think it's hilarious because they're punks. But, you know, I'm like, I bet, look, I have on eyebrows for you today. You're like, that
Yes.
sounds crazy to some people. Like, what a weirdo. But that is part of my daily life. And everybody has something like that. You've got stuff going that the rest of the world may not know about. You don't want to talk about it. It's not out there on your social media feed or whatever. But it doesn't make it less important. It doesn't make it less a part of your story. It doesn't make it a lower priority. They're all things that have to be considered as you live your life. And so even though I do the speaking and the writing and the retreats and all this, I finally came to terms with the fact that I know like the best marketing strategy is to like show up on social media all the time, be consistent and do these stories, like I hate it so much. And it's not that I hate being on social media. It's not that I hate, because I love connecting with people there. I love sharing and encouraging and the pieces of it that are social and edifying.
Yeah.
But the have to, the need to, the algorithm, this is the way to be successful, girl, I'm out.
It takes away the whole joy out of it. And, you know, I think there's something to be said for finding joy in our work. You know, like sometimes it's not always possible, but, you know, I love that you brought that up because it's just it tears from the purpose of why you're doing it. Why am I doing this? Is it just to try to keep up with the algorithms and the, you know, the expectations? And when we're living life and working and hustling in that mode, then the spark is gone. And I love that you recognize that, because once you've lost that spark, then people can tell, like people can feel that it's just, you're just doing this to keep up appearances or because you have to, or
it's no longer authentic. You're not reaching your people for purpose and from an authentic place. And that's like, whoever's listening, you may get some haters off this. I don't know. Like, I love you, but it's like, that's gross. It's gross. Stop it. If you're going to show up and offer something to the world, it needs to be something that matters. Not that it has to matter to everybody, but it has to matter to you. I want to share this. Like, you are finding joy in your sourdough bread creations. I find joy in watching you make and share them. And like, look at what came out of the oven today. I love that. And I love seeing you share the things that are bringing you joy through the day, like your Christmas setup in your house, and like I think that's beautiful because those are things that you love and you share what you love and moments of joy through your day. I think that's encouraging. And so
thank you.
I love that. But if you're just like, and now I got to post another thing and now I got to show up again. And now.
Or like, I'm going to show off because look at this. I did this. And I, you know, like where it's a big, like bragging thing.
Humble brag.
That's a big turn off to me. Like I can tell the difference so fast when people are just getting on to brag, you know, and just to be a show off. And like you said, there's a difference between sharing because, you know, this brings me joy and, you know, I'm proud of what God has allowed me to do. And I know for me, like, I almost didn't want to share anything with like the sourdough or the stuff because I'm like, people think that I don't work and I'm just have all this time in the world to spend in the kitchen.
Is that little naggy, like it's like the devil in your brain.
I know.
Like, people are going to think I'm a lazy slob because I'm making bread for my family in my house. They're going to think I don't actually do anything. Stop it right now. How dare you feed your family, Rachel Earp, lazy bum. But all of that to say, like, we could go on this. I could go on this rant all day long. My goal in all of this conversation is to say, yes, you can hustle for whatever it is you need to be hustling in the season of your life with intentionality and awareness and connection with God on a daily basis. But you asked early on how I create breathing room in my schedule. The biggest piece is that mindset shift and intentionality. But a second piece of it is letting go of the things that don't matter. Having that awareness of like this, some people say, right? Or if I compare to others, like this is best practice for this thing. It doesn't make it best practice for me. It doesn't make it mine to do. Goes back to that question, God, is this mine? And God has said very clearly, like, there are times when I'm reading in my Bible or I'm having a conversation with someone and I feel compelled to share on stories. I have had this thought. I read the scripture. Have you noticed this before? I need to hear from somebody. Like, let's connect on this. Those are the times when I will show up and share. Or if I have a scripture or something stupid has happened in my house and I just need the world to know about it. And I'll take, like
Yes.
those things. But to show up for the sake of showing up is not mine. That is not mine. And I've laid that down at the altar. Like, I'm over it. And everybody has things like that. That one's mine, one of mine. But letting go of those things frees up space on your calendar. So that when you are putting things on your schedule, all the things you need to get done, you intentionally literally create the breathing room to do the things that fill your cup and connect you back to God. That's how you have to say no to some things to say yes to others.
Yeah.
Because when you say yes to things, you're saying no to something else. That's just, I don't know, science, physics. I don't know what it is, but it is.
It's really true. And I think we look at spaces in like our schedule, spaces in our life, where we think we have to fill every single space.
What else could I put there? What else can I can squeeze in another meeting. I can squeeze in another project. Let's go. Let's hustle.
Like, and it gets overcrowded. And then, it's just a total mess. It's just, there's okay to have space. There's okay to have.
It's needed. Girl, I'm going to take that. I'm going to turn it on its head. It's not even okay. It's necessary.
Yes, you're
right.
It
is necessary to have space on your calendar.
Yes.
For one, life happens.
Right.
And if your calendar is booked out every moment of every day, and then the dog throws up on the, there's just stuff all the time. Like I said, I've got 2 teenagers and there's no telling. Somebody gets sick at school and needs to come home. There went my day and my calendar was full. There's no wiggle room to put it anywhere else because every other day is full. How long have we been operating like that?
I know.
Stop it.
It's really, I find it funny now, but it's like really not.
But we've lived it, haven't we? We've lived it.
There's no wiggle room. Can we just talk about wiggle room, people?
You need to wiggle. You need the room to wiggle.
Let's schedule room to wiggle. Even if you have to schedule stuff to not be on your schedule, whatever makes you feel better, just do it.
Yep. And I'm real big on permission slips. I love providing people with permission. I don't know why we need them, but we do. So I'm going to pass it through here. Here's your permission slip to leave some breathing room on your calendar. Even here's one to intentionally schedule quiet time for yourself.
Yes.
Time with God. Here, just take them all the permission slips.
Yeah.
It's allowed. It's okay. It's needed. Go do it.
And if you need someone to sign your permission slips, Rachel Baker will sign them for you.
I will sign that permission slip. Let's go.
I love this so much. And I so appreciate you taking time and creating the time for this right before your surgeries and the holiday season as we're recording this and all of the things. I'm honored that you said yes to this, my friends. That means so much to me. And I know it's going to be a huge impact to everyone who's listening. So I want to thank you for that. And
this was an easy yes. Girl, easy yes.
I'm so glad you didn't have to really
no, this was Rachel's like, do you want to come on? I'm like, heck yes. What can I move? We're going to make this happen.
I'm so glad it wasn't a hard one. That would have made me feel bad. Easy yes. Okay, that makes me feel good.
Good.
This has been so much fun. How can people that really are just drawn to you, your vibe, your story, and all the funny moments? How do you want people to get to know you and come into your world?
Yeah. Well, first of all, bless this mess. If you want to come on over, I welcome you with open arms. We keep it so real over here, obviously. My website is probably the easiest place to find all the things, and it's racheldbaker.com. And I'm on Instagram. Do what?
What's the D stand for?
Deanna. Oh. Yes. Rachel Baker is a fairly common name. And so I had to throw the D in there, and I'm not mad at it. I like it.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, it's Rachel.d.baker is where I'm on Instagram. And I love connecting with people in the DMs. It's just so fun. So even like whether you like comment or like a story that goes up or have a question or, hey, I saw this verse and thought of you, whatever it is. I love getting in conversation with people. I've met the coolest people that way. Aww. So Instagram is fun. And I've got a podcast as well.
Yes. Talk about that too. Because the title alone is just say it. Nobody says it like you do. Go ahead.
So the title of my podcast is How's All That Working For You? And it is because it used to be called Create Some Breathing Room, because that's the goal, obviously. But I had some hard conversations with dear friends, and we were talking about authenticity. Mm-hmm. And when we're really getting real, and when I'm talking with my coaching clients, that is the question that really sparks the most transformation for people. Because, I told you I work with women who are drowning, and they'll show up and they're, this is going on, and I've got this, and I don't know about this, and it just... we do it like it's word vomit. It just like, here's my whole life and I'm running on a hamster wheel and please Lord fix it. And I'm like, I listen, I'm like, that is so much. It is so hard. I completely understand. So let me know, how's all that working for you? Mm-hmm. And typically the response is, it's not, like, what do I do? And so like, well, cool. Let's talk about that. And we talk about how to get intentional with it. What's working, what's not, why, what are your God-given strengths and skills and passions? And so all of those things are things that I'm really passionate about. I interview lots of different women speakers, authors, other podcasters who have something to speak into this area. Mm-hmm. And so I love it so much. The podcasting is fun. And come find me.
I love it too. So I love the raw conversations, and just because if we really ask ourselves that question more often, I guarantee you we probably would be like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this because it's actually not working out for me. Mm-hmm. It's like ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. And it's also okay. It's also okay to sit with it a minute. Like, well, how's this working out? Like, maybe it is working. Maybe it's great and you don't need to adjust anything. Like, I think that's great too. But it's just a great question to kind of sit with every once in a while and just like, okay, how's all that working for you?
Yes.
It's actually okay. We're on a good track right now. Okay. Or fix it. Lord Jesus, please. This is a hot mess. What do I need to do? And I love walking with women through that process and saying, what's not working? Why isn't it working? What would we like to be working? How can we get there? And it's just a beautiful, honoring thing to be able to walk through that with other women. I love it so much.
That's so precious. Well, I will make sure to link that in the show notes too, so everyone can find your podcast, because I'm obsessed. And thank you again. This has just been amazing. So much fun to have another Rachel conversation. I always treasure it. And thank you again. Praying for you tomorrow. And for those who want to just kind of see updates, they can find all the things over on Instagram and your website. So I'll link that below. And thank you again so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Sacred Hustle podcast. I hope it brought encouragement and inspiration to your day. If you love this conversation, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with a friend, follow the show, and leave a rating or a review. It helps more listeners find me. And don't forget, you can connect with me anytime at www.rachelerp.com. Until next time, keep balancing purpose, peace, and pursuit in your sacred hustle. See you soon.